on the other, and then I bump them side to side, so they all got a kick out of that. And when you were interacting with any of them, having fun, the others would all sit around, they would laugh, because they involved themselves emotionally watching you, you know. And, let's see, Donald, we come in one night, and they said, you have to take the vitals on Donald every 2 hours. John bit his ear off. So they had to have a search party because they didn't know if John ate it or not. So they did find his ear on the back of the toilet. They attached it. Then when they took the dressing off later on, the ear fell off, so Donald never got another ear. And he was one of the great biters.
Yeah, they're big and vicious. And then you gotta remember, these are big people with little minds. Like, you ever see like a 2-year-old or something bite you? Well, now you have an adult biting you, so they take pieces of you.
And then one of her boys, she had the bad boys over on Q2. So I volunteered to go to a Reading Phillies game with them. So they gave me, 2 of the guys that went, took 2 patients each. We went in a van, and they gave me one that wasn't quite as bad. So we drive all the way up, and we grab the van. The guy with me, he has my arm. Joe comes over and he grabs the other arm. So we walk all in through the parking lot and up to the bleachers, and we're ready to sit down. And I see a fist go like this. And Bruce, he was a big guy. He hit Bruce right in the chest. And when they saw the fist, it hit me. I had my glasses on. And when you went on that ward, you always took your glasses off because Joe loved to punch people with glasses. Being out in the community, you don't think of this, you dismiss this. And all I could think of was, oh my God, if he'd have hit me and I'd have gone down in the bleachers, he'd have killed me. So, I mean, that's the stuff that happened. And then they told me one night, Neil likes to put poop in socks, so watch him close. So I hear a little sound, so you always went in, because sound carried in here. You heard footsteps, and if the bare feet hit the floor, you heard it. So I go in and I quietly stand there and watch Neil, and Neil was blind. So he's standing there at the top of the bed, and his head looking like he's looking around, but he's listening. So he feels his way down the bed, and there was 2 drawers at the foot of the bed. He opens the drawer and he takes something out, and I thought, I got you. So that's okay, he comes to the doorway, and all we had was night lights in there. So he comes to the doorway and he's coming out, I snatch it out of his hands. Well, sad mistake. The sock was packed with poop. It was wet, it was slimy, and it was cold. I'm gagging so bad because we didn't have gloves at Pennhurst till later on when the union came in. So I'm standing there gagging, the girl's working with me. I'm trying to tell her, get me a bag to get rid of this, and she's standing there, what? And I'm gagging so bad I can't tell her what. So it was like a 3-ring circus, But I learned one thing, never take anything out of somebody's hand. And then we had Clarence. One of the boys threw up on the floor. So I go to the puddle, because I want to protect it so nobody walks through it, because somebody falls on these floors. You always were aware, you're talking about stitches. They hit the floor, you're getting sutures somewhere. So I go over to protect it. Clarence comes running over, he gets down and, oh my God. The girl comes with the mop wringer and she's saying, where is it? Where is it? I think, and I'm gagging so bad I can't tell her. But you couldn't tell. And that was our usual nights at Pennhurst. Yes, we had some winners. Yeah, and then I worked with her on her ward. I was pulled over, and she said, "I'm going to go down and check the laundry, see if it's dry. Check the dryer, see if the laundry's dry." I said, "That's okay, I'll go." She said, "That's okay. Howie drug his mattress out. He's just over there. It's fine." So she went. Howie looks at me, and he gets up and he comes looking at the bench, and he's looking at me. And I said, "Go lay down, Howie, and go to sleep." Wishful thinking, but he wouldn't go. And he just looked at that bench and me, and I knew what was coming next. So I went in the office and shut the door till she came up. That way he didn't throw the bench at me. And
You had to watch him.
And then he has a full cast on his leg. She'll tell you how he got the cast. And I'm working with her again, I'm pulled over, and he's climbing up on top of those partitions. I said, should we get him down? She said, no, leave him alone. He'll get down himself, he won't get hurt. If you try and help him, he's going to get hurt. So he takes and he jumps trying for the light and lands down on the floor. Never get hurt, nothing.
He was usually lucky, except for that one time. Well, I don't know if you noticed our security screens, well, they used to open with a big iron key. So you can't get them open unless you have the key. Howie knew how to get them open. Don't ask me how he did it, but he used to hit it in a certain spot and it'd pop open. Now, all of us aides beat the hell out of those screens trying to get it to open. None of us could get it open, but he got it open. Well, one time he went out the window and down. Didn't get hurt. A couple weeks later, did it again, went out the window. Thank God we had an ex-football player here that was a big guy that tackled him on the walkways because he was running down the walkways with the bone sticking out of his leg.
Oh,
Yep.
he broke his leg.
Yep. Definitely broke it. That's why he had a full leg cast on. That didn't stop him from trying to get up to the lights. When he got the lights, he would get the tubes and he'd throw them at you. Laughing the entire time. That's why all the lights were screwed shut up on Paper Hall too, because we didn't want Howie to get the light bulbs anymore. We were afraid he was going to get electrocuted too.
Oh, yeah. Jeez.
Well, he was interesting. He had all kind of little quirks. And one of his things he did, well, he liked to rip your shirt. Like he'd pick you and decide he's going to rip your shirt. And he'd do it for a good month. So everybody that he picked on would come in and just put a stage shirt on. So if they ripped the stage shirt, it was no big deal. Well, he tried it once with me, just one time. But when he tried it, he had scratches from the bottom of my chin all the way down to my bra. He got stuck in my bra. Now this was at the shift change, so day shift was there too. And all of us are all laughing. He's beside himself because he's trying to get my shirt to rip, but he couldn't get it to rip because he was stuck in my bra. That's the only time he ever tried to rip mine. And I think he thought I had a magic shirt, you know, so he never tried to rip mine again, which was okay with me because I didn't need that. But he had this little thing that he liked to do. He used to get towels and he'd rip them up. And he'd get strings. Now he was nonverbal, but he used to make noises, and he also would spin these and sing to them. He'd go ee. He'd do it all day. So he was tired of the springs, and then he would take his little strings and he'd eat them.
That's what we have.
Yeah.
Does that now.
See?
Yeah, we have that now, yeah.
Not unusual, but he knew when they were coming out. And he was the only patient here at Pennhurst that had an LTO program, lock time out, when I worked here. And he had a lock time out room, so when he knew it was coming out, he wanted to stick it to the ceiling in the lock time out room. So he would do something, some bad behavior to be able to get in the lock time out room. So he'd always come out and on our shift, he would throw the tables and chairs, then he'd run back in the LTO room and look out the window at the end and go, So, actually, this would go on a lot of times. So the one time I told the girl I was working with, I said, you know, we're always rewarding him for his bad behavior. I said, let's try not to do it. So he ran out the one night and he threw all the tables and chairs. And then he ran back to the LTO room and he's looking out at us going, And we just ignored him like he wasn't doing anything. So he decided, they must have heard the tables and chairs. So he ran back out and threw them again. Then he ran back there. We were totally ignoring him. You know those big foam rubber chairs that you saw back there?
Yeah.
He came out and threw them around too. He was skinny. He was tall and skinny. You wouldn't think he'd have the strength
He
he did.
picked
but he
him up
did.
and threw him.
No, he picked them and threw them. So we
Oh, my
ignored that too, and he ran back to the bedroom, and we're like, "Oh, we did it. He's going back to bed." Then we heard thump, 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 thump. He was throwing everybody out of bed. So, needless to say, he got his way. But through the years, we found out if you took your keys when he went back in there and he pulled the door shut, if you just jingled the keys, he thought he was locked in. But you know, he really knew he wasn't locked in because when he was done with his little adventure, he would open the door and come out. But he was happy once he heard the keys because he thought he was locked in. It was his little thing. You never knew what he was gonna do. He used to rip up the sheets, he'd rip up his shirt, he'd rip up the bed, the mattresses. The mattresses were covered with vinyl. He used to rip them with his bare
Oh
hands.
my goodness.
So sometimes you hear him back there, rip, 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 because once they put the cubicles in, you couldn't see what they were all doing unless you went into the cubicle to see what they were doing. We had to sit in the bedroom area when they were sleeping. So the one night we're hearing this rip, rip, I said, wait, that don't sound like a shirt. And the girl I was with, she said, that don't sound like his mattress either. So he said, we better go check on him. We went back to check on him. What he did was rip off his cast. Fiberglass cast. barehanded.
Oh my goodness. He's a strong guy.
Never knew he was gonna do. So he was one of the most interesting people here at Pennhurst, I can tell you that. You never knew, just never knew. He would go by the office door, if we had the office door open, he'd run past the office looking and go, So we knew he was after something. A lot of times it was the clock. He yanked it down off the wall. He'd wait until somebody new come up, or somebody that didn't know him that well. And he'd run in, smash past them and get it and run out with it. So that was our Howie. We could tell you lots more stories. We could keep you here for about 6 more hours, but we figured we should just shorten it and keep it little. So you're free. We're setting you free.
Oh.
You guys ask questions, so we can't get to keep you. So you just go home.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sure you guys have stories too, because it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing.